Good afternoon, morning. I am Staff Sergeant Alexander Hanson. My presentation is on the METSI support system, and my problem is I have a lot of students that are eligible to take the National Board for the Certification of Occupational Therapy upon completion of my program, but as you can see right here, these are the students eligible to take the exam, the national exam upon completion, and these are the students that actually take the exam. This is a 3-year model, so as you can see, I have a very low participation rate in taking the national exam. It's got my program into trouble with accreditation because when you have a low number of students, it skews the results sometimes, but that is not the problem. The problem is that I am not under academic probation for the program. The problem is that my students are not taking the national certification exam in the numbers that I need. So my proposal is I need to come up with the motivation for the students to take the exam in phase 1 and phase 2. And one of the reasons why I do not have the officers in here, lieutenant colonels, lieutenant commanders, is because they've told me, well, good luck, Sergeant Hanson. I've been preaching take the national exam for years and years, and still only about 20% on average are taking the national exam. But this is where my seeing things and their seeing things differ. I am enlisted, just like my students. None of my students are officers, so I have the platform to motivate my students. They can aspire to my rank. They cannot aspire to the rank of lieutenant colonel or lieutenant commander. And so all I do is motivate time after time after time, not just one time, not just once a week, every day. Every day I motivate the students to take the national exam by using basic facts. Security for their families, security for themselves, a national certification, a real title that they can take with them and keep lifelong. Um, 34% have taken the national exam within the last 3 years, but the 2015 and 16, which there is a lag there, only 3 soldiers have taken it, which is very, very low, and the results are skewing and got me on academic probation. Like I said, that is not my problem. My problem is I need more of the students to take the exam for themselves and their family, and the accreditation and getting out of academic probation will come along with that. That will be a secondary effect. These are the eligible students that have taken the exam. As you can see, I had a good chunk here in 2014. 2015, I was down to 3. 2016, I was down to 3, and that's where I got into trouble because I had a failure, which are not the 3 that passed. I do believe I had 2 failures right here, which skewed my results and got me into trouble, which is not the problem. I need the students to take the national examination for their families and themselves, and the field at large. So, I use the Maslow's hierarchy of needs to motivate them. All students want to please their instructors. If their instructors ask them to take the exam, they want to please the instructors. They want to know the facts. And by knowing all of these things, the motivation and all the inspiration that I give them should drive them to take the national exam in greater numbers. I'm shooting for 100%. We've got new instructors here, and the new emphasis is on this new instructor team, which there's a high turnover instructors, to more forcefully motivate and bring up the idea of passing the national exam more often, not just covered once, not just covered once weekly, not once monthly, all the time. And remember, we are an influence because they can aspire to our rank. We are the ones. Not only this is phase one didactic, they go on to phase two. We will reach out and have reached out to the phase two instructors to carry on the motivation to take the national exam also in phase two. We also have more in place. Yes. Oh, sorry. I got some other instructors here in the room behind the camera, and I thought one of them had a question, giving me time. We also have funds that we have already allocated to take a national practice exam. We got those funds from the METSI organization, and the students are currently taking those tests and finding out where they are so they know exactly which areas they're weak in and what they need to study for. We have progress reports that we can gauge our success on, and milestones. And struggling students will also be reevaluated, and their progress will be on a daily basis instead of weekly if they're starting to have trouble. And like I said, we have reached out to the phase two sites to help us with the motivation as well, because as soon as they leave phase one, I won't be there, but I will have email access to them, and my other instructors will have email access to them to motivate them on their way. So the motivation will not disappear as soon as they're out of phase one. The research that I've been using is effort for cost, responsibility, consequences, commitment, and reward were all significant predictors. My quantitative data, not my qualitative data, is the quantitative data is they have day-to-day homework. I can gauge how they're doing. The hands-on practical examinations are fast and furious and many in my very, very fast-paced course. There's written test scores, and of course, once they pass the national certification exam, I will get those scores too to let me know how I'm doing and how my instructors are doing, how the program is doing. So my 360-degree leverage approach is from the bottom up instead of from the top down. It's not my colonel is telling me this. My bottom-up approach is my enlisted instructors are telling me this, educating me on lifelong success to take the National Board for Certification in Occupational Therapy instead of just doing the minimum that the Army requires and going on and having a military career without passing the national certification exam. And remember, 8 out of 10 soldiers will exit from the military. 10% will exit because of medical boards. 10% will retire, and 80% will just get out. And that is the soldier that I really need to pass the national certification exam, because once they're out, they'll be able to provide for their families and won't have to go work at Waffle House. Nothing wrong with Waffle House. So the feedback that I get is normally in the form of email. I just got an email 2 days ago from one of my past students that said, hey, I know all these great incentives that you've been telling me and motivating me on, but what's the best offer you can make me on the civilian side? So that's great. The reason I think that's great is because they are going to take the national certification exam, and they want to know what they can expect in the civilian world, which 8 out of 10 are heading that way. So, supporting and empowering the instructors for this need to change and score, get a higher percentage to take the national certification exam is going to be a primary concern. We know that the enlisted instructors have the best platform, and we know to a certainty that the long-term benefits for the soldier, enlisted soldier, for the benefits of their family, not only if they stay in the military, but if they get out. Because the reason, if they stay in the military, I need continuing education to stay current, which the soldier that does not take the national certification does not need to complete, but the soldier that does needs to, and the soldier that gets out needs to do those as well to provide for their families and keep on top of the field. That is my conclusion. Are there any questions?